So it's been a hot minute since I sat down and played any New World, and there's pretty good reason for that. There isn't a lot for me to chase as having a high level character, and there's things on the roadmap that I'm still personally waiting for, like cross progression, as that still is in their exploration phase, which originally I was looking at more like, hey, that's expansion, but being that we've seen multiple updates to the living roadmap and then that's still out there, I think it's clear to see that they are running the ship a little bit differently. In today's video, I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on the latest developer update. If you guys haven't seen, they put out their July developer update in which we got the updated roadmap, in which we're seeing so much happening within the game, especially around season 10, which if you've been following the channel for any period of time, already know that we've been speculating that there's going to be an expansion sometime with season 10, aka the fall, which tends to be their pattern. However, being that they haven't announced it, being that they haven't even talked about it like at Summer Games Fest, maybe it's a free big ass update. Time will tell one way or the other. Regardless, season 10 is looking pretty good. I want to go through the roadmap, give you guys my thoughts about each of the different items and kind of where they're segmented. But first, I also kind of want to talk about the aspect of the game going free to play. I just finished watching Jay Oddity's video. Shout out to Jay. He brought that up, but also we have breaking news as they've added in New World of Tournament into PlayStation Plus. And I do anticipate this perhaps also coming to Xbox Game Pass, which is what I said would most likely happen at some point in the future. Ideally, it would have been cool to see them launch the game into something like Game Pass and PlayStation Plus to really bring in a lot of people. But this is a good opportunity, especially as they gear up to go into season 9 and then eventually into season 10 with that. What's truly also interesting as a part of this roadmap with this update with season 9, there's no seasonal servers. And for me, the seasonal server was such an interesting experiment, but as a player who plays MMOs, to invest in their character, to invest in that progress, it's the reason I don't like MOBAs. Anytime like your progress is getting hard reset, like it just takes out the willingness to go in and continue to invest in that. And besides the fact that right now I'm really heavily enjoying playing Final Fantasy 11 again. Yes, I said 11. That is such an old classic MMO that really does so many things right. New World does so many things that I also do appreciate, but when it's all said and done, when I look at New World and I look at Guild Wars 2 and I look at Final Fantasy 11 and Guild Wars 2, I'm like, yes, let's do more of that in Final Fantasy 14 and New World and, insert MMO over here. I haven't checked out Dune yet, and I know several of you guys have been asking. So honestly, the question to you guys, being that the game has come out and it's had its, in my mind, its excitement hype phase, once that dips down, where do you guys fall and where do you stand with development? Sound off, let me know, because I'm not against playing Dune. In fact, it seems like it's a game that checks all my checkboxes. And I know I've shared this with you guys, especially on live streams. The last 9-10 months of my life have just been so busy. I haven't had much time to play New World. I haven't much had time to play video games, but that is now, my life is getting back into balance, and I think I'm excited to see how that plays out. Now, okay, let's talk about this roadmap, because I think there's some really interesting things. Namely, first, we have season 9, Season of the Banner, Capture the Flag, being brought out a preview. This seems to be a pretty standard practice. They're going to do something in preview in each of the different seasons. Capture the Flag coming in, CTF map Frozen Pass and CTF map 2 are all there. The 3v3 arena is getting a new map. There's a preview for the OPR map. Two new world bosses have been added: combat and PvP updates, artifacts, perks, and seasonal events. What we don't see here is, once again, an expedition. And I think they're talking about that with what they can allude to with the procedural expeditions, being that they say how much time it takes for them to make an expedition. We haven't seen an expedition drop in a while, and that in and of itself means I think procedurally based expeditions could have a value for sure, and I'm not going to knock it, especially until I try it. That being said, I do feel, and this isn't a bad thing, what I'm going to say isn't a negative thing, so if you hear it negatively, I'll try it hopefully in a way that nobody is hearing what I'm about to say negatively, is that they committed to a 10-year development cycle for New World. I feel like they're sticking with that aspect. I think the game's going to have this, big update, what we're calling season 10, or maybe an expansion, because there is this in beyond aspect to it. We'll cover, in detail here in a second. But with these two, even with this yearly update, I do think the bigger shift is with the Lord of the Rings MMORPG that they are clearly and working on, and the same team is working on. And I think that's actually the smart play. New World, for its itself, has seen its peak. We don't see MMOs re-peak themselves, right? World of Warcraft is what it is, but it isn't going to be what it was, and that's perfectly fine. And maybe we'll explore that in a discussion video sometime on this channel. Because it's something that I see repeatedly overbrought in the conversation around these kind of games, especially as we all get older. And if the genre isn't inviting in new blood, well, chances are it's going to go the way of what may be fighting games. Like, we could classify fighting games. For me, they used to be the biggest thing I ever played. Then that became shooters. Now MMOs, and then eventually, maybe Souls-like single-player RPGs. And who knows, maybe the MMOs will come back as soon as the kids are grown and I'm retired and I have nothing but free time to sit down and play. All that being said, is I do think that we're seeing that. I think they're going to continue to support this game. This isn't New World is going away. That whole meme, that whole frustration kind of bothers me, because it's like, as long as they stick with their 10-year plan, they continue to update the game, continue to support the game, and then see where they're at after that, I've got no issues with them. And that actually makes me excited to invest my time into the Lord of the Rings MMO that they're working on. And I want to root for that. I want it to be really great, because I would love to be able to take what I love about New World and be able to live the Tolkien dream with Lord of the Rings. Those two things together could be really, really exciting for me, and I'm personally looking forward to it. Now, I know that was an aside, especially about what's all going on, but let's dive back into the roadmap here. Let's focus in on Season 10, and then we'll talk about the and beyond, because it's very curious to me. We're getting a new zone. Now, Season 10, most likely in October. New zone, really cool. Hopefully that's a new zone. Now, what's interesting about that just in and of itself is traditionally the new zones have been added with we got the Brimstone Sands, which was typically what we would classify as an expansion, even though it was free. So they called it an expansion, but it was free. Then we got a rework of the zone with Rise of the Angry Earth. Okay, cool. New zone, new in quotes in this case. and then essentially now I hope this is a new zone, not a redo of an existing zone. They can still redo existing zones. I hope they continue to kind of refine that. But when they put new zone, I'm really rooting for an actual new zone to explore. A new raid. They added in the Gorgon raid. One of the things that I'm always going to struggle with, because I don't get to play during normal times, it's difficult to find a raid group. I hope that we'll continue to see cross progression and stuff. The procedural expeditions with extraction, that is being added in Season 10. I'm really excited to see that game mode and go hands-on with it. What I'm personally really looking forward to is the endgame progression system overhaul. Like I said, I haven't been playing a lot of New World recently, and to that end, there's not a lot for me to go and invest in. I've got a character, it's got great gear. I'm able to run the content that I want to run. Sure, I'd like to do some more in the game, and hopefully now that my schedule's a little bit better, that's gonna happen. But it is what it is. Anyway, very excited for the endgame progression systems overhaul. I really do hope they knock it out of the park this time, because I want them to settle in on a system that people can understand, that there's meaningful progress. I do not mind RNG progress, as long as it's married with some form of static progress. Maybe that's the next gen Umbrals, which is the next item on the list. Set bonuses coming in, I think is going to be really exciting to see. I like when gear matters, and that's where, when it's all said and done, set bonuses and gear give me the ability to invest in the gear that I have that I like and make it even stronger. And that could all tie back into the endgame systems overhaul as well. I always kind of think back to Final Fantasy 11 in this case, where in 11, you could have a piece of gear that you get at level 17 and it could be the best in slot for a long time, if not even at the end game. There are some really great things, and that's where the trades and things come in. I think the solution to that is you could create some really cool and unique gear that could be at all different levels, You throw in, an umbral advancement loop, and all of a sudden you can, item level that thing up higher, and thus either unlock new perks or what have you. These things exist. We've seen these as examples. Personally, I'm rooting for it. The attribute saved with gear sets. Baby, this is going to be sweet. I think that's going to just make jumping into different builds much more convenient. We all knew that was coming. They talked about it when they first introduced gear sets. Gear sets are great. Makes it so much easier to jump in and do the things in the game. And then the customizable HUD, all part of Season 10. So Season 10 in its column is looking quite beefy, which is great. Then the and beyond. New weapon, raid difficulties, new PvP mode, zone up level. In my mind, I'm wondering if that's them doing taking a zone and kind of bringing it into kind of a more of an endgame thing. Endgame reputation systems, new heart runes, pickup wars, and crafting global storage. The and beyond is what's really truly interesting about the development. Are they going to target that for other seasons? We haven't seen them introduce weapons outside of the year one, where they introduced 3 new weapons along that year leading up to Brimstone Sands, which introduced the actual 3rd weapon. If this is a free update, honestly, I'm not against it. I think if they did sell it as an expansion, there is a revenue opportunity. But I think what maybe they're seeing is that maybe we see more investment in the thing like the Battle Pass. Maybe that is where really the money lies. And then that ties back into the breaking news. Hey, if this is in Game Pass, and then if this is in PlayStation Plus, honestly, I'm fine with that. I still want this game to have a buy to play model. And I think after that, you have those elements, you get people checking out the game. Maybe then you get them buying a couple season passes. You protect the community by not opening it up to free to play and bot farms. Like every online game. That's when people complain about bots in a free to play game, I'm like, you signed up for that. That's exactly what's going to happen. In a buy to play game, honestly, it's what's going to happen. People are going to do that. But at least if nothing else, there's a cost to doing that. And as they go and find the bots, then you at least have somebody supporting the game financially with some money in this regards. So I think all in all, that's pretty freaking exciting. As we move into the in exploration, new weapons still on there, new raids, new zones, zone up levels, territory system overhaul, influence tower, claim siege, all instance content being available in matchmaking. I think that's going to be great for the raid and in that aspect, but that's also, like, again, you're going to have that raid difficulty, which is what you're going to need if you're going to do matchmaking. Ranked PvP, company hall with storage, invasion mode with difficulties, groups in soul trial raids and expeditions, new exploration collection systems, account-wide progression, and new travel mechanisms. Let's talk about the new travel mechanisms, because I have and continue to be publicly against flying mounts. However, I'm all in if they were going to do gliding. New World, I think, would be a beautiful game to introduce gliding. And honestly, if they did that, it'd be kick-ass if they added in climbing, and then you could have a stamina thing that you kind of level up. Even though we have that as a part of combat, it'd be kind of neat to say, your grip strength or something like that can level up for gliding and for climbing. So that way you can kind of traverse the world in very new and interesting ways. If they go just straight to flying mounts, I get the convenience factor. However, I just see how that generally, I think, robs the world of that passive multiplayer that you see when you run across other people. They'll be flying out in the skies and not really kind of appreciating the world as it exists, rather than like climbing up to a spot and gliding could open up new and interesting kind of ways of traversing, as well as at the same time, I don't know. I like gliding in games. I'd love to know what you think about any and all of this, guys. So feel free to sound off in the comments. Feel free to get in the conversation involved in the Discord. Top link in the description will get you to all the cool stuff that we got going on. But outside of that, guys, I'm going to wish you all the very best. I'm really excited, really interested in knowing your thoughts. And I really can't wait to hang out and play some more video games with y'all. But anyway, until then, take care.
Brand new legendary, but something ain't feeling right. I seen that shader in an art book back in 99. A little bit of my soul's been borrowed one more time.